And I am alive. Welcome to the Red Blue Podcast, a podcast all about movies and TV show. Tonight, we talk about these bad third movies in these franchise. The third Christopher Reeves Superman, the third RoboCop from the 90s, and and the third Blade movie in the early 2000s. It's kind of funny how these movies are all made in different decades, and yet they all suck the same way. Now I may have a hot take, but they are kind of a bit underrated. They are so terrible. They're so very bad. But I think people over exaggerate some of the less good aspect to it. So let's talk about Superman 3 1983 right after the intro. So I will screen share something right now. Let's get into it. This is the Rotten Tomato segment and the plot slash wiki page segment for Superman 3 made in 1983. The plot. And let's get into the wiki page of the third Superman movie. It was directed by Richard Lester, screenplay by David Newman, Leslie Newman, based on Superman by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. It was produced by Pierre Spengler and it was starring Christopher Reeve's Superman, Richard Pryor. I don't really know that actor. Jackie Cooper as well. Mark McClure. I don't know the guy. Oh, Annette O'Toole as Lana Lang, aka Martha Kent, in the Smallville TV show that came out like almost 20 years after that movie. Annie Ross, I don't know her. Pamela Stephenson, I don't know her. Robert Vaught, I don't know that guy. Oh, Margot Kidder, one of the most forgettable Lois Lane. I know I will get some eat there. But yeah, cinematography was by Robert Paitner. It was edited by John Victor Smith, Ken Thorne, and the production company was Gov Mead Ltd. It was distributed by Columbia, MI, Warner Distributor United Kingdom, and Warner Bros. United States. Release date June 17, 1983, July 19, 1983. So they were like 2 days apart, which is very interesting. The running time was 125 minutes, so that's like 2 hour and 5 minutes. That was dreadful to get through that, but hey, I did it for content's sake. Countries: United Kingdom, United States. Language English, budget 39 million, and the box office was 80.2 million. So it just proves there that you can be a success and still suck. And it's kind of fascinating how Zoom in just took out the important part. There we go. Again, twice the budget, and that movie sucked. And we will get into it very soon. Now let's get into the plot. Well, now let's go into the plot of the third Superman movie. Some rich oligarch employs a cyber criminal to enrich himself and to plan world domination, aka failed Lex Luthor. After trying to defeat Superman by using kryptonite, the red and blue hero acts in a very odd way. And this is the plot of that horrendous third Superman movie. Now, let's get into the Rotten Tomato discussion. Beat the third Superman movie on Rotten Tomato. Computer programmer Gus Gorman, Richard Pryor, is hired by financial tycoon Ross Webster Robert Vaughn to seize control of a weather shenanigan. And again, that guy was Discount Lex Luthor. That was actually terrible. Um, Critic consensus when not overusing side gags, slapstick, and Richard Pryor's supplementary resort to plot points rehashed from the previous Superman flicks, which is very true. And it's no wonder that movie is like 31% for the critic and like 23% for the audience. And as usually, rewind. As usual, I will be crazy on the review parts, but I still don't like the movie, but I mean, I feel like the critiques they liked it only because there was a powerful woman in that movie, if I remember correctly. Or was that the fourth one? Actually, can't remember. So let's get into some of the critiques first. The critiques, the critiques. Tedious, labored, and feeble beyond belief. That's a rotten score. Oh, a fresh. Oh, okay. So Anna Marietta also liked it. Sydney Morning Herald with a fresh score, a witty, refreshing escape of a movie. Very two different. Oh, I rewind this. Two very different takes. Um, Harper Barnes, St. Louis Post Dispatch. Another rotten score, mainly. It is pretty much what you would expect from Superman movie starring Richard Pryor, moderately entertaining and totally predictable. Another rotten score, folks. And the third rotten score, Richard Friedman, New York Star Ledger. Rotten. The Superman saga seems to be running out of fresh ideas, smack into premature middle age. Breaking through, there was always that kids movie vibe to the first two, but they took it to another level with that third one. Um, and the fourth one, the fourth one is a parody. Like you cannot take the fourth one seriously. Um, let's get into Jason D, a audience review with 1 star. Can we all agree that this is basically one of, if not the worst thing ever created? Actually, this rating should be 0 out of 5. Did that person have seen A Quest for Peace? Quest for Peace is far worse than this. Next one, Gus Gorman, another 1 star from Robson C. Progrimi der Elbe. Oh, that's Portuguese or Spanish. I don't know. So that person didn't like it. You see, like whether you like it or not, like some people are on board despite language. So the next two comments. Oh, 3 stars, a bit higher than mine. So nowhere near the quality of the first two, but still as rave as Superman and still enjoyable if you like silly fun. I can see that. I can see it fully from Albert W with a 3 stars. So that'd be a 6 out of 10. Fairy R, another one that hated that. I heard about how terrible Superman 3 was, but I didn't expect it to be that bad. The entire film was soulless rehash of the first two movies. And I am back. So I will tell all of you, way back then, that movie was on TV. Times and times, I ended up watching bits of the movie. I never really, uh, I never really hated that movie, to be honest. But now you grow up and eventually you realize how wrong you were. On my most recent watch, I found that movie okay, and I say it lightly because I don't despise it. There were aspects I did enjoy. Now let's start by saying I think that movie is not so great, and I agree with a lot of the statement that were made on Rotten Tomato. Now let's get into my review. And now my computer froze. Hopefully, the sound is still fine on the other end. The joys of having a weak computer. Um, so let's get into the issues I had with Superman 3. Now, Superman 3, I will be honest again, um, not a masterpiece by any means. So let's talk about what went wrong for me, at least. The first issue I had with Superman 3, the opening sequence wasn't believable since it was a series of plot convenience. The second issue I had with Superman 3. Several attempts at humor failed in the first few minutes. I will admit, the first three movie, that one um, that one looked the ugliest. The other movies, they looked way better. And again, they looked way better than whatever we got in this installment. So, um, yeah, I think the visual of the third Superman movie didn't age well by any means. It's kind of unfortunate because again, I think that movie gets a lot of flack, a lot of hate. Um, Now, my fourth issue with the third Superman movie, acting and or directing didn't age well. My fifth issue, dialogue didn't age well. My sixth issue, the main villain was a worse Lex Luthor, so we already had a better Lex Luthor, even if it's not my favorite. Let's be honest, uh, Gene Hackman was far better than whatever the guy they grabbed for that one. My seventh issue, the jerk was a weak character, and I can't even remember his name. So anyway, like again, the issues were like plot convenience, the humor, the dialogue, and the visual. That movie looked ugly. I'm sorry, folks, if you like the visual, but it was the start of the downfall of the Superman movies. Now, I may sound overly negative because I always start with the negative. Now, let's get into what worked. And the aspects I did enjoy because there were aspects of the third Superman movies that were actually enjoyable for me. The music was okay, the fire was entertaining, Jimmy was entertaining, well shown out, the guy was stealing from his boss, bowling was kind of cool, meeting with the boss was fun, Clark and Lana were entertaining, well shown out, Clark was different because of the rocks, the bar scene was entertaining, Soups versus Soups was very fun, the final fight was fun, the creator changing his mind was kind of cool. So overall, this movie, I really sit right in the middle of everyone. Like I've seen people loving it. Well, it was mostly people hating it, but I'm somewhere in between because I thought that was the enjoyable experience, but it's no masterpiece. And I will sound crazy because my score is actually higher than many others, but let's get into it. I will give the third Superman movie a 5 out of 10. And among the three movies tonight, I I think that one is probably coming in third place because I quite enjoyed a lot more late Trinity and the third RoboCop. So these were my thoughts. What did you guys and girls thought of Superman 3 if you ended up watching it? So again, no masterpiece, but I think it gets a lot of hate and flack. So with that being said, I think it's the perfect moment to jump right into the second movie of these bad turn movies, being RoboCop 3, that came out exactly 10 years after Superman 3. So now let's screen share, let's get into it. There we go. Click, click. RoboCop 3. III was directed by Fred Decker. The screenplay was by Frank Miller. Fred Decker. Frank Miller, it was the guy that was involved in the story, and it was based on characters by Edward Newmeyer and Michael Miner. Produced by Patrick Rowley. I start getting better. I no longer butcher these names. And now let's get into the nobodies involved in that movie because I don't know any of these actors. And now I just went down way too fast. So I guess we will start with um, some lesser known name, I guess. So let's get into Robert Burke, Nancy Allen, Jill Hennessy. Oh, that sounds like alcohol. Remy Ryan, John Castle, Rip Tom. Cinematography by Gary B. Kibbe. Oh, actually, I actually take away what I said. I probably butchered Gary name there. Edited by Bert Lovett. Music by Basil Poliduis. Distributed by Ryan Pictures. Columbia Pictures International. And release date, actually, it came out in Japan first. Interesting. So it came out in April 18th, 1993 in Japan and November 5th, 1993 in the USA, which is quite unique, if I can say. Now, the next few things to mention is the country, United States. And that's why it's so surprising. The running time was 104 minutes, so that's like an hour and 4 dreadful minutes. Language English and Japanese. Budget 22 million and box office 47 million. So again, we see a trend there. Another really bad movie that performed very well. Tragic. Once again, I will sound crazy, but that one is a 20% from the critique, which is a lot lower than mine. I still don't think RoboCop 3 is good by any means. It's actually a terrible movie, but 20%, folks. Okay, okay. Maybe you see stuff I don't see. 15% from the audience. So people universally hated that movie. Greedy corporation Omni consumer product is determined to begin development on its dream project Delta City, which will replace the previous whatever. Now let's scroll down. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Critic consensus: the asinine sequel should be placed under arrest. I like it. Nice consensus, folks. The first one is actually a fresh score. That person liked it more than me because I don't think it's fresh. Mark Kermode, Sight and Sound, March 16th. So that's recent. That's surprising. There's still more durable material here than RoboCop 2. I disagree with its OTT carnage. Could even hint at Shayla Johnson, independent UK. The story feels outdated because it's like it's happening in the UK, folks. This is a rotten score, folks. This is a rotten score. Um, yeah. Um, let's see. Sherman, Boston Globe, March 16. Rotten. Fred Decker keeps the pacing moving with lots of cool vehicle chases and explosion, but Robocop, whose function has been reduced to mayhem and bad one-liner, gets Robo lost in the shuffle, and that's under rotten score. And another rotten score, folks. 3 out of 4 rotten. The plot cooked up by director Fred Decker and Frank Miller is strictly leftovers. I feel that. I feel that. So these critics they aided that experience, and I cannot blame them by any means. Now, are the audience more positive about it? Oh my, that's a rough start. First one is 1.5 stars. Paul Verhoeven, 1987 classic, was a masterclass in satirical filmmaking. Even Kirchner's sequel further into the old stick, but this one is a failure. From William A. and from Larry L. 1 star, which is worse than the previous one. The first film had an excellent character arc, sharp satire, and great antagonist, good music, classic poster, etc. And the sequel is just a rehash and a terrible sequel. Oh, someone that has the exact same score as me. I spoiled it already. Friends B. This one has lost a title luster. A RoboCop fan, I must confess, this one is no thrill, unlike the other, perhaps the worst. And I agree with that statement. Um, Brendan A with 1 star, one of the worst RoboCop movies of all time. I feel ya, buddy. Let's go through the plot. That's quite simple for RoboCop 3. The third of the name, the shameful one. A crime dominated city sees its people revolting against the cop and a corporation that's controlling said city. RoboCop, a weapon used by the establishment to suppress the population of the city, switches sides. I hopefully it's not too much spoilery, but let's be honest, it's no big reveal. It's like it's just natural. It will happen. It's just like the way it's scripted, and it's the way it's told, and it's quite early in the movie. Is like I'm not having it. What did I think of that movie? Well, I already spoiled parts of my review up to now, but now let's get a proper review for RoboCop 3, The Shameful One. Even if I say that, I'd say among the three flops, among the three bad movies we had tonight, I think that one is my favorite. But it doesn't mean much because, again, these are three awful movies. Now, let's get into my issues with the third Robocop. The first issue I had, the bad dialogue. The second issue I had, the bad acting. The third issue I had, characters were forgettable. The fourth issue I had, main villain were weak and forgettable. So it's like, wow, you did everything wrong. The fourth issue, main villain were weak and forgettable. I already actually said that. I just repeated myself twice. Just to make that clear. The fifth issue, dialogue, simply didn't age well. On this, I agree with one of the critiques out there. This sixth issue, awful visual effect in the final fight. The seventh issue, more bad visual effect. So it came back, it came back, it came back. Let's hammer this home. Now, why is it my favorite in these streets? Because that one feels very real now because we got like totalitarian regime all over the planet and we celebrate them, and it's exactly what's happening in that movie. Like people rebel and revolt, and I feel like the rebel and the revolt will come eventually in the world, but figure cross it soon. Anyway, to get back to the RoboCop movie, entertaining action is one of my first few likes because let's be honest here. There's a lot of bad with that movie, but I did enjoy some of it. I did like it a bit, just a bit. Again, I think it's a bad movie, but it had some redeeming qualities that made me forgive myself for placing that movie in the planning. The cop dying for standing up was tragic. The people trying to fix Robocop was cool. Nice humor, cool chase. The traitor was okay. The cops turning on the ruling class was kind of cool. I like it. We need that in real life, you know? Nice team of propaganda being used on what became a totalitarian, authoritarian regime. Man versus machine was interesting concept, but that was something rearched and that was actually done better in previous movies in that exact franchise. It's unfortunate. It's how I feel. And now, the big moment. I do think this movie is a 5 out of 10. I said it. We got to 5 out of 10 in a row tonight. It's a big day because usually I have higher scores even in really bad movies. Um, Again, I forgave myself for watching that because it some of it did resonate with me, and I've seen worse movies like Catwoman. It's incoming eventually on the planning at some point. That's far worse than that. Um, so these were my thoughts. What did you think of the third RoboCop if you did end up watching it? Let me know in the comments if you watched the playback. Now, the big moment, the final of the Trinity, the Blade Trinity. So I will screen share. I will screen share the right tab because this is what we do here. This is what we do. This is what we do. Angle. Let's start with the wiki page of Blade Trinity, with the release date being December 8th, 2004. So it's like a Christmas movie with lost blood. Running time 113 minutes of again pain and suffering. Country USA, language English. Another successful awful movie. It's a trend in this stream. It was distributed by New Line Cinema, production companies, Sean Daniel Production Ltd, Imaginary Forces, Amin-Ra Films, Marvel Enterprise, New Line Cinema, Ramin Jawardi, the RZA. Howard E. Smith was in charge of the edition of the movie, and Conrad Smart. Cinematography, Gabriel Berenstein. It was starring other people I don't know outside of Wesley Snipes because the guy did some jail time. Wow. Oh, Dominic Purcell. Actually, that's H-Wave in freaking DC's Legends of Tomorrow. That's my reference. Triple H, Natasha Lyonne. That name seems familiar, but I can't point out to what. Oh, Mark your posies. Who is Ryan Reynolds? No, I'm joking. I actually know the guy. I don't know the guy, but I know the actor. Jessica Biel. I remember she's pretty. That's all I remember. Chris Kiffin Woodfinson. I just butchered the name. The movie was produced by David S. Goyer, Lynn Harris, Wesley Snipe, Peter Frankert. Based on Blade by Marv Wolfman, Gene Colan. Written by David S. Goyer and directed by David S. Goyer. So the guy did so many different movies through the years. It's just fascinating to see the guy still chilling, making movies. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I'm actually very close to the audience on that one. So 24% from the critiques and 58% from the audience. The war between humans and vampire continues, but the humans' best hope, human vampire hybrid warrior blade with the snipe as to fight for everyone. Now, critic consensus, louder, campier, and more incoherent than its predecessor, Blade Trinity seems content to emphasize style over substance and rearch familiar theme. I agree with that, actually. So for once, I'm not that crazy. I'm not that crazy, folks. Um, so the Times UK. So that review is 11 years old almost. Rotten score. I'm a great fan of Blade, the Marvel Comics vampire hunter played by Wesley Snipes, but a third episode Blade Trinity, directed by David S. Goyer, is a blood fest too far. Nail me now. Common Sense Media with a 2 out of 5 for series fans only. Definitely not for kids. Why do you need to say that, folks? Like, if you have seen the first two and you think it's a good idea to show that to kids, you shouldn't be parents or you should babysit. Anyway, she felt the need to say it. So I guess now let's move on to the next two. Jonathan Rosenbaum, Chicago Reader, Rotten. The only one who seems to be having much fun through is Parker Orsi's camping it up as one of the vampire. The next one is another rotten score that's kind of close to mine. Joseph Garcia, Dynamic Duel Podcast with 2.5 out of 5. Low stakes action, non existent character development, campy villains, and a sidelined main character make the film feel like it's trying to ice skate uphill. I can see that. So consensus up to now is everyone hated that thing. So let's see the audience because they seem to disagree with these folks that pretend they are the voice of reason. Make it be 2 stars. There was literally no point for this movie. It feels like it was just a cash grab. And I agree. 3 stars out of 5. Personally, one of my favorite guilty pleasures movie. Blade Trinity for me is freaking entertaining. I love the Marvel universe. And I feel you, my friend. Among the 3 movies we covered tonight, Blade Trinity is probably the one I found the most entertaining. The next one, Gregory S with a 2 stars and a half. It would have been a music video. It would have been great. Unfortunately, it wasn't. The movie search are 2 stars and a half. Blade Trinity, the third film in the Blade trilogy, introduced Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel alongside Wesley Snipes. Well, this is people. The people spoke, and a lot of them agree with me, and they have very similar grade as me. So for once, I can read the room. It's kind of funny because I thought uh, the vampire movie was my favorite in these 3, but no, actually, it was RoboCop. But anyway, now let's get into the plot of the vampire movie. The plot of the vampire movie is quite simple. Vampire hunter teams up with other vampire hunter to hunt vampires. And maybe that's why I like slightly more RoboCop 3, but like Blade Trinity and RoboCop 3 are both really bad. Let's be honest about that. But yeah, quite simple third entry. Uh, we are so far away from the first 2. Well, are we? So, what did I think of the late Trinity, the final movie I will be reviewing tonight? Well, not so great. In the ranking of these 3 movies, that one comes in second place, right behind the third RoboCop. But again, it's a race to the bottom, and these 3 are not so great. So let's get into what didn't work for me. My first issue with Blade Trinity. Bad visual effect by the pyramids. My second issue. Dialogue didn't age well. That's a trend with these 3 movies. The third issue, color, grading, and or lighting was bad. My eyes were hurt by this movie. And that movie is the most recent one, and I feel like the visual are the worst. It's kind of hilarious. They had like 21 more years than the third Superman, and yet that movie looks worst. Prop everywhere, folks. You see the puppet and the ropes. Anyway, the next issue. Can't aim outside the station. My fifth issue, weak villain. My sixth issue, forgettable character. My seventh and final issue, big end of movie shootout had really bad aiming. The movie thinks you're stupid, and I hated that. Now, I may sound overly harsh, but again, this is my second favorite movie of the night. I know the bar is very low, but this is happening. This is happening. So let's get into what worked. What did I enjoy with this movie? My first like. The lore was okay. Cool action, nice music, cool action, more nice action. The chase was kind of fun. The cool action.
Nice one-liner about the dog being in the lobby. Great action. So overall, like the big recurring thing is cool action. I wasn't bored. I was entertained. And again, this thing is better than whatever Superman 3 tried to do, but it's like slightly worse than RoboCop 3. And again, the bar is very low. My enjoyment was there, and I understand the critique, and I understand the people, and I agree with a lot of them. And it's unfortunate this is how we add a final Blade movie, and that movie is 22 years old, and I don't know if we will ever get another movie like this in the future because Marvel doesn't know how to make that kind of movie again. It's unfortunate, you know. It's not so great, but it's better than a lot of the MCU slop I've seen over the years. Um, anyway, what would be my grade out of 10? Quite simple. 5 out of 10, just like the other two. That's a trend. These bad turn movies are all 5s. What did you all think of the Blade Trinity movie? If you have seen it. If you didn't, watch it for laughs. You don't need to take that movie seriously because it's not. It's not a serious movie. They were probably joking on set and laughing at how bad this is. Um, and again, I feel so generous and crazy because the more I think about it, the lower the score would get. Anyway, that was the discussion about these bad turn movies. Now, let's get to the outro. The big ending. Coming next on the channel. Thursday, we talk about Ready or Not 1 and 2. We talk about Project El Mary. And at least Thursday, it's 3 amazing movies I did enjoy a lot. One is slightly worse than the other two, but we are in for a great show. Now, Friday, maybe at some point, or Saturday, I will be finishing Resident Evil Requiem. Yes, I didn't fight the final boss yet in the previous stream we had. So this is exactly what's going on. And probably most likely, if it doesn't take too long for me to beat the boss, we will try to start a new playthrough of Resident Evil, but with the harder difficulty, not insanity, but like the standard difficulty from the classic era, and that should be slightly above what we had with modern. Now, coming next Saturday we talk about Pierre Polyev coming to Joe Rogan. I know I said no more Canadian politics, but this is a transition from the previous format we had to the next format we will have in the future. And we will react to a lot of people reacting to that, and we will react to some of the moments in that 2.5 hour interview we have seen. That was amazing. Now, next week, I think we talk about Fantastic Four. I think I might be wrong. I need to rewatch the planning. There's also high chances we may end up talking about a new movie that will come out Friday as well. We will see how it goes. But as of right now, this is the planning. So, thank you for watching, folks. I enjoy doing this show. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for future streams and videos like that. Other videos are cooking. They will be uploaded eventually. And with this, I am out. Have a great one.
Yeah, Red Blue Podcast. Come check the scene. Movies old and new. Know what I mean? The Red Blue Podcast. Come check the scene. Movies old and new. Know what I mean?